You know, this is the only Pokemon shirt I have. I think I've worn it in every Pokemon video I've ever made. Maybe it's time to change that. Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Today I am excited to share with you my third crochet clothing project, which is actually inspired by another series I have on my channel currently. If you've been here for a while, you probably know that I'm working on a Pokemon blanket cowl. We are very slowly making our way through all the 150 Gen 1 Pokemon, and when all those squares are complete, we're going to combine them to make a blanket. If you're at all interested in that Pokemon blanket cowl, I will put a link for the playlist down in the description so you can hop on over there after this video. I've put many hours of work into this Pokemon blanket so far, and it sort of got me thinking, surely there are other applications for these squares. Crochet squares are usually pretty versatile, so there's plenty of potential here, I think. Which brings us to today's project, a Pokemon square cardigan, specifically an Eeveelution cardigan. I was originally going to stick to the 150 Gen 1 Pokemon squares that I'd already made, but then I decided I wanted an Eeveelution cardigan instead. I mean, when you've already made 150 bloody squares, what's a few more? So that's where I started. I already had patterns for Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, and Eevee because they're Gen 1, but I obviously needed to make patterns for the rest of the Eeveelutions. Because of the experience I had gained making all of those Gen 1 squares, it actually didn't take me all that long to whip up the patterns for the other Eeveelutions. Once they were finished though, I needed to figure out how I was going to incorporate all of them into a cardigan. I went with a granny square cardigan inspired layout for the front panels. Both the left and the right would each consist of 4 Eeveelution squares as well as 4 solid color squares. With that idea in mind, it was time to break out the maths, which is always just everyone's favorite part, isn't it? This is the face of a maths enthusiast. After some precise measuring, I figured out that the Pokemon squares I already had would be too large if I placed them side by side. A problem that was easily solved, it turns out, by shaving a few rows off each of the 4 sides of the square. So I made a test square. I measured it. And success! The size would now, hopefully, be a much better fit. After crocheting that initial test square, I went ahead and made 7 more because I was going to need 8 solid color squares in total. That was the easy part out of the way, and now I had to tackle the Eeveelution squares. And over the next few weeks, I slowly crocheted my way through all of those. I started out with Espeon, then I made my way through Umbreon, Flareon, Jolteon, Leafeon, Glaceon, Sylveon, and then finally Vaporeon. And here they all are. And I have my black solid square colors too, but they're pretty boring, so I'll just leave them down there. But here we go, we've got Espeon, Umbreon, Flareon, Jolteon, Leafeon, Glaceon, Sylveon, and Vaporeon. With this, if you saw my video from, I think it was the start of the year, my first one, I did say in that video I wanted to use up a lot of my yarn stash. That was one of my goals for this year. So I am using up my stash on this. I didn't want to buy new yarn, which is why some of the colors are a little bit off. I think Flareon's the most noticeable. He's sort of neon orange, which isn't quite the right color, but as I said, I wanted to use up what I had. I didn't want to buy any more yarn. But the others I think are actually a pretty good match. I did bugger up on Sylveon here. I forgot to use, I used the wrong blue for this eye over here, but it's not too noticeable. I can live with that. Those are all the Eeveelution squares. Now, the observant among you may realize that someone is missing. Where's Eevee? And there was really only one place that I could think to put her, on the back panel. But that's not going to be an easy task because unlike the front panels, I intended to crochet the back panel as one large piece, which means I will need to adjust the Eevee pattern that I have, like a lot, so much adjusting. First of all, I'll have to make it larger. To match the size of the front panels, the Eevee square itself is going to have to be the equivalent of 16 smaller squares, or 4 by 4. This one's going to take a bit of work. After a bit of work, I have finally finished the large Eevee back panel. You ready for this? Drum roll, please. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Can you see that? Yeah, I think I got it in the frame. What do you think? I am surprised how well this turned out. I didn't know how well like the pixel graphics were going to translate to a larger square, but I really do like how Eevee turned out. I did bugger up a couple of times down near the face here, where the second eye is. This row here was supposed to be extended out further. There should have been a brown square under the eye and then the black square here, but I didn't realize that until I was about here, and I wasn't undoing all of that color work, so Eevee's just going to stay like that for now, but it doesn't look too bad. I think if you look at the overall picture, that doesn't really stand out, so it's okay. Another thing I buggered up on was, for some reason, I accidentally did too many rows down the bottom here. Whether I miscounted or I wasn't paying attention, I don't know. So I had to perform a little bit of crochet surgery, which means it's messy down the bottom at the moment, but I am going to be adding the ribbing, and I think that will take care of that. That'll hide it, so again, not too worried about it. And now that we have the back panel done, we have all the squares finished. I've got them all down here, but I'm just grabbing 2. I have my black squares finished as well. I'm going to crochet the sleeves next, and then once I've crocheted the sleeves, we can begin putting this entire cardigan together. And here are my 2 finished sleeves. I decided to add the ribbing on these at this point rather than crochet it on later, just because that's something that I wanted to try. But now that they're finished, that means all my large panel pieces are complete. And now I'm going to sew them all together. I'll start off with the front panels. I'll join all those squares. Once that's done, I will attach the front panels to the back panel. After that, I will then attach the sleeves on either side. And the final step of assembly is going to be to crochet the sides together. I'll start at my wrist, work my way up under my arm, then down my side, and then I'll repeat the process on the opposite side of the cardigan. And that is all my assembling done. The cardigan actually looks like a cardigan at this point. My next step will be to weave in all these ends. I need to do it. I'm just gonna get it over and done with. Then when that's done, the final thing that I need to do is add the ribbing. And I'm thinking of adding a collar too, but I'm not 100% sure on yet. I'm still on the fence about that, but we'll add the ribbing at the bottom first and see how we go from there. I have finished the Eeveelution cardigan, and I've got to tell you guys that I love it. Ready? You want to see it? I think it turned out really well. I'll show you what it looks like on, but it's supposed to be pretty hot here today, and I made the mistake I did with my Stitches inspired hoodie. I used a thicker yarn to crochet a heavy jumper, and then I wore it on a really hot day. But let me turn around. Oh, I really like how this turned out. That's not to say that I don't have any critiques though. There are a couple of things that I would like to change, and I hope I'm not covering up my mic here. There are a few things that I would change next time, because I do plan to make several more varieties of this, not Eeveelutions, I've done with that, but some different themed cardigans. The first criticism I have is the yarn that I chose to use. I used an 8-ply milk cotton yarn that I got off eBay, and it's really lovely and soft, but it is quite thick and it makes the panel pieces rather firm. So this is a very heavy, very warm cardigan, and I think given that it's actually more of a jacket than a cardigan, so this will definitely be going in my winter wardrobe. The other thing I might change is to add some buttons. Because it ended up more jacket-like than cardigan-like, I didn't add any buttons because I don't tend to close jackets. I like to layer, and I have my jacket open most of the time. So buttons would kind of be pointless in this case. That being said, I can still add some for just like aesthetic purposes. A couple of other critiques is more with my technique. This was the first time I'd joined squares in this manner. I haven't made granny squares before, so I've never had to join granny squares. And while I think I did okay, you can definitely tell, like especially down at the end here, I didn't finish off that great. It's not very neat, and I think I can improve on that. But again, it was my first time doing that, so I don't think I did too badly, to be honest. Oh, this is, all right, sorry, it's getting way too warm. Oh. Right, let me put it up here so hopefully you can see it. Sorry, fishy. Now that you can see that, another thing I might do next time is try and add a lining, because look at this mess. I tried to weave in my ends as neatly as possible, but it's not the nicest thing to look at, is it? So I might look at making a nice lining for my jacket and then just sew it in. A bit sweaty there. Is that too much information? And the final little bit of critique that I have is the sleeve size. When I made these sleeves, I started off with my arm circumference measurement, and what I think I should have done is just made them the same width as 2 squares. So this square here, and then hang on. Oh. And then the same width again down the back, so basically 2 squares worth. Because I don't really like, stay there Minecraft torch, because I don't really like how the sleeve is half, or not even half, like a little bit on the second square. I just don't think that's very appealing. It's not a huge deal, it's not a deal breaker, but I don't like the look of it. But apart from those few little tweaks that I would make next time, I am just so pleased with how this turned out, and I look forward to winter when I can actually wear it, because I can't do that at the moment. I had it on for 5 minutes and I was boiling. So it's definitely a winter clothing item. As you're probably aware, seeing as you watch this video, this wasn't intended to be a tutorial, it was a crochet along with me. However, if you would like to see a tutorial, do let me know, because I'm considering making one, but there's probably not much point if people aren't going to get any benefit from it. So let me know if you'd like to see a tutorial. I'm probably, for any potential tutorial, I'm probably going to stick with just the Gen 1 Pokemon that I've already made patterns for. And so if enough people want that, maybe we can vote which Pokemon to have, because we'll have 9 in total. And on top of that, there are Pokemon squares coming out all the time for the Pokemon blanket cal. Or if Pokemon's not your cup of tea, which I know it's not everyone's, maybe we could choose a specific theme, like, I know, outer space, under the sea, flowers, or like fantasy, and then crochet some squares to that specific theme, and then I'll incorporate those into a tutorial. So there's a couple of options there. Let me know what you think, if you'd like to see a tutorial at all, and if so, which one. I look forward to seeing what you all think. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you did so, consider subscribing if you haven't already. Again, let me know if you want a tutorial, and I will be back next week with a new video.